Good day. My name is Stanley Paris, and I'm the proud owner of Kiwi Spirit, a fast family cruiser. She's a Paris 63, and in this boat I intend to do a solo, non-stop, non-assisted circumnavigation of the globe. In the process, if all goes well, I'll be the fastest ever in a cruising boat, and I'll be the oldest by some 18 years at age 76. Additionally, I wish to do it entirely green, using no hydrocarbons, no diesel, no gasoline, no propane, butane, all bioelectrical power that I'll create from solar, wind, and water. I'll be starting out in St. Augustine, Florida. Now, the existing record is actually from Bermuda, around the world and back to Bermuda. But by starting in St. Augustine, I'll establish a new record, then go up to Bermuda, cross the line of the existing record, sail around, cross that line again, hopefully breaking it, and come on to St. Augustine to establish a new record. The boat was designed by Fire Yacht Design and built by Lyman Morse in Maine. Here she is on the day of launch, and there are the some 100 employees who worked on that boat. There is something like 20,000 to 30,000 man-hours in this boat. You'll notice it's called Kiwi Spirit. Halfway along the side of the hull is a fern, reminiscent of New Zealand, one of our national plants, and up on the bow, a kiwi. Now, why did I choose Kiwi Spirit as a name? Well, the record is held by American Promise. Dodge Morgan sailed around in American Promise in 150 days. I'm calling mine Kiwi Spirit because I'm a New Zealander as well as a citizen of the United States. Here's the boat on the first few days of sea trials after launch. And she really does sail very well, and it's comfortable to sail. So why am I doing this? Well, I've had a passion for sailing. I've sailed on and off most of my life. My professional career has taken preference. But I've done some 60,000 miles, and I have circumnavigated the globe, but usually with crew on board. I've led a life of wellness. I am a physical therapist. I've been heavily engaged in sports. I like to chase things that I'm passionate about, and I've had a number of adventures. Personally, I'm not a very fast athlete, nor am I particularly strong, but I found a long time ago that I have the quality of endurance. So most of the things I've done have had an endurance factor to them, and certainly sailing around the world non-stop will require that ability. I've also developed a great respect for Dodge Morgan and his boat named American Promise. He set out to break a record that was originally 313 days. It came down to 192. He took it to 150, and I intend to take it to around 120 if I can. Then finally, I was inspired by my son, Alan, who entered in a 5-stop around alone race in 2002. And I got to meet these solo sailors, and they're a fine crowd of people, and I wanted to be one of them. Here's my son, just after he crossed the line, having gone around the world from America back to America, and I'm giving him an embrace. I think I'm saying to him, congratulations, but don't ever do this again. Now, additionally, as a physical therapist, I want to help define wellness and personal responsibility. One of my slogans has been that while medicine and surgery may save lives, no profession speaks to the quality of such a life better than does physical therapy. And I believe that. I believe what we learn in our training as a physical therapist enhances our ability to lead a quality life. And that's the message we pass on to our patients, that we can help them do the same. I want to raise awareness, too, of physical therapy as the profession that restores, maintains, and enhances the physical functioning. And I like to live that way so I can be an example of it. And finally, I'm seeking to raise money for physical therapy research to further define and to effectively promote cost-effective restorative health care. So those are goals that encompass a part of the reason why I'm doing this. There are the names on the boat, and for $100, people can place their names on the boat and say that they've sailed around the world, if you like. $150 for a family name. Now, this is not my first adventure, and here's a model of a car that I once drove from England out to India and raced back. I was age 23 at the time. I had 25 sponsors, and I did over 150,000 miles in this car in 2 years. I also went through Russia, most of the Soviet Union, and toured North America. Did about 25 television performances, a little bit of stunt driving, things like that. In those days, I was very much into rally driving and had a lot of good sponsors. I've been sailing. This is my 52-foot boat. I haven't done much small boat sailing, but largely larger boats. And here I am sailing on my way to England, crossing the North Atlantic. My wife is on the left-hand side of the screen there. And the reason I was going on this boat called Dreadnought, you can see her there, Dreadnought meaning fearless, dread nothing, was to have a shot at swimming the English Channel. And here I am all greased up for a swim. I swam it twice that summer and became the third oldest person to have ever done so. I moved on to a faster boat in 1998, a far-designed 60-footer built in Sweden, and on that boat I circumnavigated the globe. Here's the various routes that that boat took, and you can see did a great deal in the Pacific Islands, but also across the Atlantic, and after I left New Zealand, which is in the bottom left-hand corner there, went under Australia to your left, and then on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see I went under South Africa, and then back up to Florida, completing a circumnavigation. I had a misadventure or two. Here's one. I got stuck on the rocks in Alaska, and that was a fine balancing act, because had that boat laying down on the side, it would have filled up with water. It would have been impossible to keep it out. And had it fallen over from this position, it would have smashed badly. If you look at the top right-hand corner of the screen, you will notice a line. Now, that's an anchor line that I tied to the top of the mast and then rode it out quickly while there was still water into the rocks to the far right, and then kept the tension on it all day. The United States Coast Guard paid us a visit, but they could not do anything to help, and they were only taking bets as to how long the boat would stay up. That shoal that you see the boat on is right in the middle of a channel. You can see the green channel marker to the right. It was uncharted and now is named Dreadnought Shoal in honor of my boat having come aground there. Another incident, I was in a hurricane near Madagascar, and you can see I tore my sails out. Both sails, the Genoa and the mainsail, which you're seeing now, were torn out, and I did a bit of first aid. Actually, not shown. I don't know where I lost the photo, but I used 6 pairs of vice grips to close that tear off. The stitching wouldn't hold. The fabric was too rotten. But by lowering the sail, getting enough of it together, and rolling it on itself, I was able to hold it with vice grips. Now, a short history of solo sailing. This was the first man to sail around the world. His name was Joshua Slocum. He's written a fine book. Many people have read it over and over again, myself included. His boat was the Spray. He took 3 years and 2 months to circumnavigate. And, well, frankly, I don't have that long. But he also spent a lot of time in various places. It was not a non-stop trip. Then came Sir Francis Chichester. He almost made a solo non-stop. He took 274 days of sailing, but he had a 107-day stop in the middle of it. Ill health in Australia caused him to spend time in just one port. And this is his boat. And you can see the traditional keel, and it was a very steady boat. And then along came Sir Robert Knox Johnson. He and 5 other sailors started out to sail around the world and non-stop, non-assisted. He was the only one to finish. And this was in 1969. That man, as you see, is not particularly young. He's still younger than me, however. He took 313 days. And this is his boat, Suhali. Then along came Che Blythe on British Steel. He did it in 292 days, going against the winds, going the wrong way, if you wish. Most sailors will go from west to east. The winds blow that way. This young man went the other way. A tough ride and a great record. And then my hero, if you wish, 1986, Dodge Morgan on American Promise. He took 150 days, 1 hour and 6 minutes from Bermuda around the world to Bermuda again. Everything changed after him, and there came the event known as the Vendée Globe. And suddenly, what he had was essentially a cruising boat, now became out-and-out racing sleds. You would never want to cruise on a boat like this. You wouldn't want to take a family out for a weekend. There's no amenities in these boats at all. They're built just to be fast. And so they started in 1989, and the record that year, the number of boats, They got around in between 109 and 163 days. But look now how it's going. The fastest boat around this year was in 78 days. So these little sleds, if you want to call them that, are far removed from the fast cruising boat that Dodge Morgan had and that I had. So I'm out to challenge not these records any longer, but that of Dodge Morgan. So let's take a look at the creation of my boat. My owner's brief said that it is to be a fast boat, and it had to be a comfortable boat for a family. But it needed to be a short crewed boat. In other words, just one person to manage the boat from the cockpit. And that's what I wanted. That's what they built. The purpose was to be fastest solo, non-stop, non-assisted circumnavigation, and I wanted to have a shot at being the first person to go port to port entirely green around the world. That's using no hydrocarbons, as I mentioned. Phase one, we're mostly in that now, and the boat is finished, but there's a lot of little things that we'll put in later when we set it up for family cruising. Phase two, which is about to start, the boat will be stripped of its interior items that are not needed. For instance, there's air conditioning in the boat now, and there's 3 toilets. Well, we don't need air conditioning, and we don't need 3 toilets. I'm just one person on this event. So all that stuff will come out, and the boat will be greatly lightened. After the event, the boat will be refurbished again in phase 3. Here's one of the original drawings of the boat, and you can see it's rather sleek design. It carries its width all the way back to the stern. And here's some data comparing American Promise, the boat I'm challenging, with Kiwi Spirit. American Promise length was 60, I'm 63, and when the bowsprit goes out, I'm 70 feet. The length of the waterline, 56, compared with mine at 57. And look at the tonnage. My boat is less than half the weight of American Promise. That's because I'm using a lot of carbon fiber. My mast is 84 feet, a little higher than that of American Promise, so I gather more wind. My beam is a little bit wider, not much. I'm 17.9, but I carry it all the way back. His draft was 10'4". That means the keel goes down 10'4". Mine goes up and down from 8'7", so I can come into shallow harbors, and down to 14'9" for a lot of stability. And in the bottom of that keel, of course, he had 22,000 pounds. I have 15. So some other differences is that his power generation was diesel to create electrical power to run his instruments, do his cooking. I was using wind, solar, and water. His mainsail was furled inside the mast. Mine's not going to be done that way. It'll drop into a slab. Technology things, he had 2 dagger boards. I have 4 water ballast tanks for stability. He had 2 spinnaker poles. I have 2 little outriggers that don't seem to be terribly effective at this time. His communication was limited to a single sideband radio pretty well and a VHF, but I have the Iridium and Inmarsat technology not available. What I found amusing is he had 200 pairs of socks. Yes, he had a pair for every day. That made me think about it, and I'd probably pack 10 pairs. Books, he had his on paper. Mine will be electronic. Alcohol, yes. And for me, yes. Here's the boat being built. There's the mold. Here's the mold of the deck. Gives you an idea of the size here. And you see the black, that's carbon fiber. And we're putting in the bulkheads there. There are 5 watertight bulkheads in the boat. That's one less than the Titanic, by the way. And here I am demonstrating how the hydro generators will work when the boat leans one way or the other. 2 of them will go into the water, and they can create power. We're at the front of the boat, and you can see there the anchor locker, and behind that the sail locker. Give you an idea of the size looking down upon it. You can see several people working in there. And where I placed those 2 arrows, those 2 yellow arrows, that is one water ballast tank, and it's connected through those holes. That's just one tank. But I got 4 of them, 2 on each side. There's 2,000 pounds of water can be loaded, and that's the equivalent of, obviously, about 10 200-pound men or women sitting on the rail. So that helps keep the boat upright and gives it more punch value in heavy weather. Here's a sacrificial bow. So if I hit something, and that's quite probable, from whale to container to log, Perhaps it wouldn't break off with it hitting a whale, but it certainly might break off if I hit a container and gives me a reserve hull just